In this video I want to talk about the US dollar Canadian position. So I'm looking to actually reduce my position just due to the fact that the technicals aren't looking that great. So initially I thought it was going to break higher. It's pretty much failed to do so at a fairly consistent rate, and now it's drifting lower. In terms of the Canadian dollar position against other currencies, you can see that Canadian's been quite strong against the pound. Fairly strong against the euro. Remember, this is what the Canadian has done against the US. Looks like the Australian dollar has outperformed the Canadian dollar though. Against the yen, it's also done quite well. Against the Swiss franc, it's also done quite well. So it looks like the Canadian is strengthening a fair bit. Even though that the US dollar has kind of made a strong move, this particular pair isn't doing as well as I would hope, and really at this stage it just doesn't seem to be that good of a trade anymore. So essentially Trump's announcement did have a fairly big impact on this trade, in terms of probably bringing it down. And initially I did think that there was still decent strength in this pair despite the move down in the US dollar. But as you can see, the US dollar acted quite strongly, and this particular trade, it's still not really as strong as I would have hoped. System wise, if I close this trade, I'll be reducing my risk, so it's keeping my losses small. Correlation wise, it is kind of reducing that diversification in my portfolio, because it's going to reduce my long US dollar exposure and my short commodity currency exposure. Technicals wise, it's failed to break higher and it's drifting lower. Intermarket wise, initially when I thought of closing this, it was looking risk off and the US dollar was getting smashed. Now, after the weekend, looks like risk has come back on, and the US dollar is quite strong, but the US dollar against the Canadian is just not really doing that great still. At the end of the day, I'm going to lose money reducing risk and following my system objectives of keeping losses small, so I feel quite neutral about that. It is what it is. And in terms of anything else that I need to consider, it's really just a matter of trusting in my system and keep on keeping on. In terms of what my portfolio looks like, I do have a fairly decent amount in the US dollar Canadian, so 1.43%. I'd be looking to cut a bit of that. Mainly looking at that, I'd probably cut 2 legs, and that will reduce my risk by 0.56% in the US Canadian. Still have almost 1% in the trade, so still got a decent exposure in case this does pop back up, but at the same time, I feel like I'm running more on hope than a strong belief that this trade is going to do well for me. So I'm going to cut my risk and see how I go from there.